What if burnout is not actually the real problem? What if burnout is simply just an alarm system going off? Just like if there were smoke in our house, the smoke detector would alarm. What if that's what burnout actually is? Most women spend years trying to figure out what's going on in their bodies. They're trying to fix the exhaustion. They're trying to fix the fatigue and the overwhelm and the stress and the burnout. And what if the symptoms were simply the messengers? Call it the smoke in the house, so to speak. Symptoms often point to something deeper. But most people just kind of rush through life and we kind of push those things off to the side. Or we try to deal with the symptoms and we don't really deal with the cause of the symptoms. So, burnout may not be the root issue. Burnout may be your body trying to talk to you. Maybe it's your body speaking, your mind, your emotions, or your spirit simply saying, hey, I need you to listen because you know what? Something isn't working here anymore. Something is out of alignment. Please pay attention to me. We often focus on the smoke detector or the fire alarm instead of really looking for what's causing the fire in the first place. So, I think the first thing to consider is that burnout is really a symptom. It's not an identity. Most women start identifying themselves as burnt out. I particularly am not a fan of diagnoses or labels because then those labels, we wear them here and they become our identity. So Teresa equals fill in the blank XYZ, diagnosis XYZ, identity. Burnout becomes an identity. It becomes a label. It's something that we walk around and we say, I am burnt out. Just like I say, I am Teresa. I am, a daughter of Francis and Peggy. I am a musician. Well, burnout then becomes something that I am. It becomes a label. It becomes an explanation and it becomes the story. I get it that we want to have a story and I get it that we want to have a reason. We want to say, recognition that there's something going on. It becomes the story, but it's not who you are. It's not who I was. Burnout is simply information. It's the code that our computer is running on that we input for the program. It's feedback. It's a signal. It's the body trying to tell us something. It's trying to communicate what's going on, and we need to listen. Our life is often what is communicating. Burnout is often the accumulated result of years of overgiving and overserving and overfunctioning and over responsibility. And as we've talked before, self neglect. And the big one, chronic stress. This was a huge one for me. There were so many areas in my life where I had stress, and the cumulative effect of all of it became overwhelming. It became just more than my personal body, my own body could actually tolerate. The burnout's real, but it's often not the deepest issue and not the reason, the underlying cause of everything that we're feeling. What I think is more likely is misalignment causes and creates this state where we're constantly, chronically depleted. We start to feel disconnected from ourselves. We start to feel even disconnected from other people. We stop asking, what do I need? What do I value? What season am I in? What is God asking of me right now? We often become so disconnected from ourselves that we stop asking the really important questions, the ones that really might actually hold the key to some of the things that we need to know to be able to understand what's happening. We continue living from expectations that are from another season, a previous season. They were great for then, or maybe they weren't great for them, but they were from another season and they no longer fit. They never fit in our current life. We continue carrying roles that also don't fit. We continue saying yes when our whole being, every part of who we are, is screaming sometimes, no. Hey, I need you to listen. I'm saying no, this isn't working for us anymore. We continue to live from a place of obligation instead of from a place where we are in alignment with everything that we believe, everything that we value, everything that we desire, and everything that we probably once held true and have really strayed away from. So, misalignment can show up as things like exhaustion. We can become really resentful. We can become anxious. Anxiety often is this low buzz that sometimes, peaks and goes down, but creates this sense of tension inside of us, and we don't have this peace that we need to have. We can have misalignment show up as a lack of joy, joy in the big things, joy in the little things. Maybe our emotions even become blunted. We don't feel as richly and as deeply as we used to. We lose our creativity sometimes. I know I went through a season as a singer, songwriter, and musician, and even as an artist, a painter, that I just stopped. I didn't for a long time. I recently started rediscovering and tapping into again that sense of creativity within myself that I used to actually carve out time for and then just put it off for other reasons and of other busyness in my life, and just really neglected that part of who I was. And I realized it is part of who I am, and I needed to come back into alignment with that and make space for it. All of this in misalignment, I think the biggest thing it shows up is a lack of peace. We lose that peace that passes all understanding, that will guard and keep our heart and our mind. And the further that we move away from who we truly are, the person that God created us to be, the one who is made in his image, the one who has all these plans for us to prosper us and to give us a hope and a future, and the one that has given us these callings and the promises that are yes and amen. The further we move away from who we truly are, the harder life really begins to feel. And so you can't heal from a place of burnout without addressing alignment. Many people try to solve burnout by nice things, like taking a vacation. That's actually a nice thing. Maybe they sleep more, watch more TV, get away for the weekend, push harder, serve more, becoming more productive, trying to find things to put our hands to do because we're really good sometimes at finding things to put our hands to because then we don't have to face what's actually really happening. We may find that all those things provide this temporary solace where we get a little bit of relief, we have some soothing in our soul, maybe even our body feels like, oh, this is what I needed. But is it really addressing the elephant in the room? What if the underlying misalignment remains? Then the burnout continues and it returns. And sometimes it's worse in the aftermath than it was before we did all those things because we're left feeling a little disenchanted, like what in the world? I thought I just got home from a vacation. Why do I feel tired, more tired than I did before I left? Healing, I will challenge you. Healing requires us to ask deeper questions. Am I living in agreement with my own personal values, not values that somebody else put on me, but my values? Am I honoring my limitations? Am I listening to my body? Am I making space for the things that give me life? And am I living from a place of obligation or a place of conviction? Because there's a huge difference in all those things that I just mentioned. Sustainable healing requires that we be in alignment. And realignment is often much, much less about adding more and more and more. It's more like removing what no longer belongs. It's looking through the big pile sitting in front of us and going, okay, what can stay and what has to go? So, burnout is not proof that you failed. It's absolutely not a failure to feel the way that you do. It's real. It's a real life experience and it needs to be validated. But it's also proof that you're not weak. It's not something that we need to walk around feeling ashamed of, because doesn't shame the lowest vibration, doesn't that make us even more exhausted, more fatigued, feel more like a failure? But burnout, let's flip it on its head. How about if it's an invitation? What if it's an invitation to pause? What if it's an invitation to listen to ourselves and to God, to Holy Spirit, and what He might be speaking to us? What if it's an invitation to reconnect, to come back to ourselves? Sometimes the symptom we dislike becomes the messenger that leads us towards the healing that goes a lot deeper. And awareness then becomes a gift. So if you've been feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, disconnected, or burnout, start with an awareness. Before we try to fix everything, how about let's pause? Let's just notice. Notice what your life, your body, your spirit, your soul might be trying to talk to you about. I've created the alignment check, and it was designed to help you to identify areas where you might be living out of alignment. It's not a scorecard, it's simply a tool of reflection. And I believe it would help you to bring clarity. I've included the link below for you to go over and download the alignment check. The goal is really just to have you take a moment and pause. It's not simply to eliminate the burnout. It's to create a life that no longer requires constant recovery. Again, burnout is not a symptom. Alignment is often the deeper solution, coming back to a place where you're no longer scattered and you no longer feel like you've just sprayed shot put across the room. You feel like you're collecting all those places and those pieces of who you are where maybe you feel fragmented or out of alignment, and you come back and you come to a place where you're more aligned with who you are, what God created you to be, what your values are. And then that becomes the deeper solution. When your life, your values, your body, your spirit, your relationships, and your responsibilities begin moving together instead of against one another, constantly battling one another, then healing becomes possible. You may not need to become stronger. I'll bet you're probably pretty strong. You may simply need to come back into alignment with who you are and who you were created to be. So if this resonates with you, I invite you to share it with a friend, check out more on my website, and continue in this journey with us every week as we talk about this idea of rediscovering who you are and bringing yourself back into alignment. I hope this blesses you, and I will see you next week.